Tonight with a lot of Quinnipiac news to get to. We start with the women's basketball team as the Bobcats took their talents to South Beach. No, not to join the Miami Heat, but to play in the NCAA tournament. Quinnipiac won the MAC tournament in early March to clinch its third berth in the national tournament in 5 years and played Marquette on Saturday. But before we get to that, take a look at how the Bobcats have fared in the NCAA tournament in the past few years. The 2012-2013 season, Quinnipiac clinched their first berth in the national tournament, lost to Maryland on the road as a 13 seed. 2 years later, in just their second year in the MAC, Quinnipiac goes 23-0 in conference play and faces Oklahoma on a neutral court, but also falls to the Sooners. So 0-2 all time in the NCAA tournament until Saturday, when things were very different for Quinnipiac. The Bobcats took on Marquette, and they defeated the Golden Eagles 68-65. Quinnipiac was up as much as 17 in this game, but Marquette were the Big East champs. They were not going to go quietly, and they cut the Quinnipiac lead to 2, and were down just 3 with seconds remaining. They had the ball, Marquette, but a three-pointer, a potential game-tying three-pointer by Natisha Heidemann rimmed out, giving Quinnipiac their first ever NCAA tournament win. RB reporters Maury Hirschgordon and Sierra Goodwill were in Miami to cover the game, and they discussed the NCAA tournament victory for Quinnipiac.
A game in which they led wire to wire. The Quinnipiac Bobcats pull off the 12-5 upset, defeating the reigning Big East Conference champion Marquette Golden Eagles 68-65 to record the program's first NCAA tournament win. Maury Hirschhorn alongside Sierra Goodwill here in Coral Gables, Florida. Before we break down the game, Sierra, there was a big storyline coming into it. Marquette guard Natisha Heidemann said on Monday night when she learned about Quinnipiac, her opponent, she didn't even know who they were.
Quinnipiac's a great team. I give them all the credit. They played hard. They had a great first half. They had a great everything. They played with a lot of fight. I give them all the credit, and I wish them the best luck in the tournament.
Really, when it came down to it, I just knew I had to be in her stuff, and my hands had to be up because we knew she was going to launch it. She's a playmaker.
Well, now it's pretty safe to say that Heidemann knows who the Bobcats are.
Absolutely. It was a battle between her and fifth-year senior Adelie Martucci for the Bobcats all night long. The biggest play of the game arguably came with 20 seconds left when Heidemann dialed up a three-pointer that would give Marquette their first lead of the game with 20 seconds left. Adelie Martucci said no way, swatted away, saved her season, giving this program the first win in the NCAA tournament.
Huge play from the fifth-year guard who guaranteed an NCAA tournament win just a few weeks ago in the MAC tournament. Trisha Fabry, though, knew that her Bobcats had a really good chance this morning after the team shoot-around.
And to be honest with you, our shoot-around this morning was the best it's ever been. The laser focus, the ready to go, and texted my AD that we're going to be hard to beat today. And that's on the record at a text at 9:30 this morning on the bus back.
So Quinnipiac defeats Marquette. They get Miami in the round of 32 game on the road in Coral Gables, and they're playing Miami as we speak. So we're going to go to Brian Schwartz and Josh Silverman, who are at the TD Bank Sports Center for the watch party. Brian, Josh, what can you tell us? What's the score? How are the Bobcats playing?
Josh Silverman, Brian Schwartz here live at the TD Bank Sports Center. Quinnipiac leads Miami 27-22 early in the second quarter. Josh, 6 of 9 from 3, 15-0 in bench points. Your thoughts so far?
Brian, I've covered this team for 2 years now, and this run that they're on, starting really once they recovered from the Brittany Johnson interview, but also in the last couple of games, has just been outstanding. In a word, nuts. It's been nuts, Brian. The way they've shot the last 3 games is crazy. They're playing at such a high level, and they're really becoming a dominant force in not just the MAC or the mid-major, but in women's basketball in the nation. Yeah, and they're really showing that with this move to the round to 32 and potentially a move to the Sweet 16. Do you think they could pull this off? And what is the key to pulling this off? I mean, I think I'd have to be an idiot to not think that they could pull this off. They're off 27-22. We've seen teams come back against them, but we've also seen them come back, so they're resilient. They have a lot of grit. They can really win at any point in the game and score on anywhere on the court. How do they win? I always say feed Jen Fay, and Jen Fay has had great games, but it's also Erin McClure and Ali Martucci and Sarah Schoen. It's really everyone on their team, and that's why they've been playing so well the last couple of games.
15 bench points for Quinnipiac, really showing their depth. They went away from the gold rush early in the season, and they've just been on a roll ever since then. Do you think that was the turning point for them?
I don't think it's the turning point. I think it happened around the same time. I think they just are in a groove. I know, and the crowd is we got a good crowd here tonight. They're happy, they're cheering. It's a great atmosphere to be here, and I'm sure it's a good atmosphere in Miami also. I know that didn't really answer your question, but I wanted to touch on the crowd.
Finally, Josh, do they pull this off? Yes or no?
Yes, they pull it off.
Why?
Because I don't think Trisha Fabry's letting her team not pull this off. I think they're so determined, and I don't think the NCAA is taking Quinnipiac seriously enough yet. I think they win this game.
Well, you know what, Marquette's Heidemann, she didn't know who Quinnipiac was. Now she does. From the TD Bank Sports Center, he's Josh Silverman. I'm Brian Schwartz. Be sure to follow Maury Hirsch, Gordon, and Sierra Goodwill, who are live in Miami.
Shane Dennehy.
And Shane Dennehy. We're all there. Q30 Sports has it covered. Back to you, Dylan.
Guys, thanks. We will continue to update you on the game. And when we come back, we dive into potential coaching candidates to replace Tom Moore. Plus, men's ice hockey played in the ECAC semifinals, and men's lacrosse had a double overtime thriller. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
On Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say yes, there is a controversy.
I'm getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. We stay on the hardwood, but switch from the women's team to the men's. The Bobcats fired Tom Moore back on March 7th and are searching for a new coach. Moore spent 10 years at the helm, but had a record of 19-42 in the last 2 seasons, forcing athletic director Greg Amodio to make a change. We're now going to bring in Jaden Daly of A Daily Dose of Hoops. Jaden covers all of college basketball, but seems to have a special place in his heart for the MAC. Jaden's going to join us now. Jaden, what's going on, brother?
Dylan, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. We've heard rumors of guys like Jared Grasso, Mike Rice, Travis Steele, but what coaches realistically make sense here to come coach in Hamden?
Well, there have been, as you mentioned, Dylan, a few names that have been thrown around. Jared Grasso has to be the top choice just based on his Quinnipiac and MAC connections. He'd be a home run for Greg Amodio if he chooses to go in that direction, just with his recruiting ties and his ability to get players to fit his system. I've also heard Mark Schmidt, the St. Bonaventure coach, who would also be a very solid hire. He's won with, let's be honest, next to nothing in the Atlantic 10. The resources as St. Bonaventure aren't exactly as rich as some of the other schools in the conference. Will Brown from Albany has been thrown around, but I'm not sure if he would leave. He's already turned down higher profile offers in the past from Atlantic 10 schools, so I don't know if he'd be ready to leave Albany, especially with his family in the area. A name that popped up to me actually earlier today, and an intriguing one at that, is Baker Dunleavy. He's an assistant coach of Villanova. He's on Jay Wright's staff, so He has a national championship to his credit and can definitely use that in the recruiting game as well. I was told the job was his if he wanted it, but I haven't heard anything else after that in the last few hours. So just a sampling of those names. I don't think Mike Rice is as realistic as the New York Post report made it out to be. He's more likely to get a job as an assistant coach than he is as a mid-major head coach. Travis Steele is one that intrigues me. He's been on Chris Mack's staff for a while, and Brett Amodio worked at Xavier. Now, if Mack goes to Indiana, the prospect of Travis Steele getting a mid-major job should be something to watch as well.
Right. The Travis Steele hire interests me as well, but there have been rumors of Quinnipiac paying up to $800,000 a year for its next head coach. Do you think they'll go through with that, and which of those candidates that you spoke on should get that type of salary?
Well, it's no secret that Quinnipiac has a very large endowment and a large alumni base, so it doesn't surprise me that they'd be willing to pay to return the program to their winning ways. I don't know if anybody that's currently out there might be worth that kind of money yet. It might be a little too much early on, and if they don't win right away, it would be hard to justify. But with that said, if you're going to hire an $800,000 coach, you're going to get somebody with experience at the head coaching level. That's where Mark Schmidt or Will Brown probably come into play. I don't know if Schmidt leaves St. Bonaventure. He turned down Boston College 2 years ago, a high major job in the ACC. But with the resources that Quinnipiac has, if they were to get him, it would be a phenomenal hire.
Right, you mentioned the facilities and also the fact that Greg Amodio has been brought in to make men's basketball a winner, so clearly this hire is huge for him. Last one, Jaden, obviously Tom Moore is now looking for a new job. Where do you see him ending up after 10 years in Hamden?
Well, first logical answer would have been Hartford, but they already announced that John Gallagher was coming back, so that takes one job close to home off the market for him. LIU Brooklyn was an intriguing possibility. I don't know if he gets that. I don't know if he'd move his family to New York. And from what I've been told already in the hours since Jack Perry was let go earlier today, they seem to have already zeroed in on one or two people, and it's just really a formality going through the motions with interviews. Tom Moore could get a high major assistant's job, maybe at a UConn or somewhere with that connection. Now, if Brandon Knight goes to Duquesne, strong possibility, one that should be looked at. Maybe he hooks up with Steve Peichel at Rutgers, and that would be phenomenal for them, getting an X's and O's assistant who knows how to recruit to help them close the gap in the Big Ten. Tom Moore could also end up on TV. He's a very astute basketball mind, Dylan, as you and I and everyone who's covered him know very well.
Right.
He'd be very good on TV. He's got limitless career options right now, and if he doesn't get a job right away, he'll be well off for the next year or two.
Well, we saw Jimmy Patsos talk about March Madness for the past couple of days. It wouldn't surprise me if Tom Moore did the same. Jaden Daly, thanks, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Anytime, Dylan.
When we return, the men's ice hockey team had its eyes set on the NCAA tournament, but it had to win the ECAC tournament first. We have the highlights of the Bobcats this weekend in Lake Placid, and it's coming up next. Stay with us.
All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac Intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say, yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monument player.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. A quick update on that women's basketball game. The Bobcats lead 37-30 over number 4 Miami with halfway through the second quarter. So if the Bobcats can win this game, they will advance to their first ever Sweet 16. So we'll keep you posted on that. But first, the men's ice hockey team has made the NCAA tournament for 4 years in a row. But after struggling a little bit during this season, the only way the Bobcats would clinch a berth into the national tournament would be to win the ECAC tournament. Quinnipiac took on Harvard and Lake Placid in the semifinals with a shot to get to the championship game. Let's roll the tape and see if the Bobcats could keep their season alive. We're in Lake Placid. It's Harvard, Quinnipiac. Harvard's the 1 seed. Quinnipiac coming in as the underdog. We start in the second period. Just 9 minutes to go, no score. And that's going to be Sean Malone, who walks into the slot, shoots it right by Andrew Shortridge. That would not be the last that we hear of Sean Malone. He would be an integral part of this game for the Crimson. A couple minutes later into the second period, Quinnipiac's on a power play. Bo Peeper's going to find Thomas Albreth. This one sneaks into the goal. I don't even know how. MJ Bird was there. I don't know how that went in. I don't even think he knows that, but it's 1-1 now. Quinnipiac against the 1-seeded Harvard Crimson. But 2 minutes later, that's Sean Malone again, his second of the night. It's 2-1 Harvard now. I mean, he was having quite the day. He was in a refuse-lose attitude. Third period now. Here's the American Sports Network.
Back away, Esposito in front, Malone, backhander, he scores! Hat trick, Sean Malone, and Harvard leads by 2.
3-1 Harvard, and they'd add one more here to make it 4-1 on an empty netter. The Crimson advance to the championship game. Quinnipiac season over. Here's Rand Pecknell post-game.
I don't think the desperation was good enough through the first 2 periods. I thought it was okay. We had some kids that were just awesome tonight. Like Connor Clifton was, one of the best players on the ice. He was dominant. But we had some of our players, not a lot, but we had a few that struggled in the moment and didn't play well. And it's a team sport, and we really needed all 19 guys going tonight to beat a team as good as Harvard.
But why did it come to this point? Why did Quinnipiac struggle and fail to make the NCAA tournament? Our own MJ Baird was outside the TD Bank Sports Center to talk about this season and Quinnipiac's future.
The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey season came to an end this past weekend with the team's loss to Harvard in the ECAC semifinals in Lake Placid. With the end of one season means time to take a look back at what this season had in store. Quinnipiac with 6 seniors they are losing this going into next year. KJ Tiffenworth, Tommy Schutt, Joe Fiala, Derek Smith, Tim Clifton, and Connor Clifton. The latter 2 of those, of course, being brothers from New Jersey for the Bobcats. These 6 guys, character leadership players for Rand Pecknold and company, and absolute classic Bobcats. Let's take a closer look at Tim and Connor Clifton, though. Tim, 83 points in his career at Quinnipiac, the kind of forward who's not afraid to get his nose dirty in front of the net and not afraid to take or lay a hit to make a play either. Tim puts up 19 power play goals just a season ago. That was good for second in the nation in Quinnipiac's run to the NCAA tournament and eventually the Frozen Four down in Tampa. Tim Clifton recently signed a 2-year, 2-way contract with the San Jose Sharks. Tim signing his first career pro contract. Expect Tim to report to the AHL affiliate out in San Jose in the coming weeks. And as for Connor, 42 points in his career at Quinnipiac, the kind of defenseman that's not afraid to join the rush, get up front, and score goals for the Bobcats. And of course, as I said with Tim, Connor not afraid to play the body, actually loves playing the body out there on the ice. Connor is an Arizona Coyotes prospect. Expect him to sign a deal in the coming weeks and report out to Arizona. But now let's take a look into next year. You got your recruiting season. Keith Petruzzelli of the USHL out in Muskegon. He's got a 2.43 goals against average in the USHL and on the NHL Central scouting list. So expect Keith Petruzzelli to be drafted for Quinnipiac. And eventually, when you come to next year, who's it going to be? Andrew Shortridge or Keith Petruzzelli in net? Rand Pecknold is definitely going to have a tough decision to make in terms of who to start. Dylan, that's all I have. Back to you.
MJ, thanks. It's still 37-30 Quinnipiac over Miami with a shot to go to the Sweet 16. But first, it's time for another break. When we return, men's lacrosse had a double overtime thriller, and softball looks to have another great season. Sports Paws. We'll be right back.
Coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome back. It's time for spring sports, and to start it off, we hit the lacrosse field. The Bobcats made the NCAA tournament last year after winning the MAC championship. This year, Quinnipiac is looking to repeat as champions, but it has not gotten off to the best start. Michael Bonavita has the story on the Bobcats' double overtime thriller against Monmouth to start off conference play.
Quinnipiac, Monmouth. Both teams ranked number 1 and number 2 in the MAC preseason poll respectively, shaping this one up to be one for the ages. A game where Monmouth came out on top in an 8-7 win in double overtime.
Well, I mean, it's down to the wire, you know what I mean? Those kind of games are, on the bounce of a ball. You always want the ball in possession in overtime. We had 2 overtimes, and, Foster made a great play. The goalie made a good save, and, it just ended the way it did. It's a close game. You can't get any closer. I mean, I can't fault our guys. I thought we played a good game.
I think we came out, we played our game. We just got really unlucky in the end of it, We had a couple stupid turnovers, but you know what? Things happen. It's a game.
This season, however, these games take place at Reese Stadium in New Haven because Quinnipiac's field looks a lot like this. And regardless of the construction in Hamden, head coach Eric Fekete is unfazed with the lack of a home field for this season.
The playoffs are going to be at Marist anyway. The MAC announced that because of the ESPN contract to have it predetermined. So, quite honestly, the loss probably hurts us less, knowing that we didn't lose a home field advantage either way, and that the playoffs will be at Marist. Truth is, you got to be one of the top 4 teams in May in the playoffs, and then from there anything goes. So you just got to make sure you stay in it, and you want to stay in the race. It's a long race all the way till the end of the season.
Even though the result may not have been what the Bobcats hoped, head coach Eric Fekete has only one thing on his mind: going forward against Detroit Mercy.
I think it's one game at a time. The playoffs basically started today in the league. It's the first game of league play, and those guys got to credit in the process ahead and winning, and we got to come out on Sunday and win to get back in the hunt. But it's still early in the race, and we'll be fine as we move along.
From New Haven, Michael Bonavita reporting, Q30 Sports.
Michael, thanks. The Bobcats will take on Detroit Mercy to try and stop a 3-game losing streak. But now it's time for our favorite part of the show, top 5 plays, not of the week, but of the winter sports season, presented by B&D Deli Works, home of the Quinnipiac Panini. I've had it. It's absolutely delicious. It actually gives me the energy to anchor this show by myself. Let's start on the ice. We're going to New York. It's Union and women's ice hockey. Emma Greco is going to find a cutting Emma Woods, who's going to fire one at the top of the shelf to give Quinnipiac a 2-0 lead. Quinnipiac would win 4-1. Number 4, we go to men's basketball. Shays Daniels, no, but Peter Kiss, yes. Finishes with a slam on Daniels is missed. Quinnipiac will lose by 19. Number 3, ECAC Game 1, Quinnipiac and Brown. Thomas Aldworth embarrasses the Brown goalie. Quinnipiac would win that one 6-1. Number 2, we go back to the basketball court. Watch the passing by the women's basketball team. Shotmanet to McClure, back to Shotmanet, finding an open Faye. Bang! From the left elbow. Quinnipiac won that game by 5. And number 1, you've all seen it, Nick Germain. Oh my God, the best goal in college hockey this season. The Bobcats would win that game 4-1. And that is our top 5 plays of the winter sports season. And that's all the time we have tonight. But Quinnipiac and Miami. Quinnipiac's up 43-30 with under 2 minutes to go in the first half. A win on Miami's home court would clinch a Sweet 16 berth for Quinnipiac. An unbelievable Cinderella story. Thank you for joining me tonight on Sports Paws. For more information, please check out our website at Q30television.com and follow us on Twitter at Q30television and Q30 Sports. For everyone behind the scenes who always does a fabulous job, I'm Dylan Fearon. Good night.